want to, before we start talking too much, want to just immediately dive into a little bit of a musical experience together. We're going to tackle a little chant from Ghana, West Africa. Um, and I'll talk a little bit more about Ghana after we dive into this chant. The only thing that I really need from all of you is your full energy and your full participation. That's kind of what it's all about. This is going to be initially vocally, but eventually it's going to get a little kinesthetic. So just to prepare our voices, everyone with me, just take a deep breath in through your nose. Good, really fill it up. Slowly let it out. Thank you. Now, it's from Ghana, so I want us to relax. I don't want us too formal, but I want voices to be able to project. So just sort of picture this idea of a string kind of coming out of the top of your head, pulling into your ceiling, nice long spine as you're staying nice and relaxed for me. Beautiful. Now, this is going to be called response. I send it to you. You're going to send the exact same thing back to me, and you're going to try and match my energy with this. All right? Be ready for me. Che, che, Kool-Aid. You go. Che, che, Kool-Aid. Beautiful. Good. Keep voices strong. I'm starting to see smiles. Be generous with that joy and that energy. Right? Some of you are going to have me up on the big screen. Some of you are going to be seeing the whole little waffle thing. Let everybody feel that energy and that joy. Here comes the next one. Che, Kofisa. Beautiful. Thank you. And musicians, I forgot to mention, one of the most painful things about making music over Zoom, for most of today, I'm going to have most of you muted, which is going to seem really weird because you're like, how can I send my energy back to you if I'm muted? But we get this crazy delay over Zoom to where if you're all unmuted and sending back to me, it's just going to sound like a chorus of people that are all in different places. So for now, leave your mutes on for me. But still keep that energy. Keep that energy. All right, here's the next one. Kofi Salanga. Kofi Salanga. Beautiful. Langa che langa. Langa che langa. Thank you. Last one. Ooh. Ale ale. Ooh. Ale. Beautiful. Ooh. Ale ale. Ooh. Ale ale. All right. Thank you, musicians. We're going to try the whole thing now. I'm going to add in my bell from Ghana, my Gon Kobe. Nothing we have to do to our Che Che Kool-Aid to make it fit into the bell. It just does. Just keep that energy strong for me, all right? Be ready for me. Che Che Kool-Aid. Che Kofisa. Kofisa Langa. Beautiful. Langa Che Langa. Yes. Ooh. Ale ale. Nice. Ooh. Ale ale. Beautiful. There it is. There it is. All right. Beautiful. Now, everyone, I'm going to ask you to please stand up with me if you would. All right. For the first line, Che Che Kool-Aid, hands are going to be on the head and feet are going to step right along with the words. I know you can't see my feet, so just follow right with your voice. I send it to you, send it back to me. Che Che Kool-Aid. Beautiful. Thank you. Right back to the shoulders with dance for the next line. Che Kofisa. That's it. Feet stepping right with the words. Thank you. Next one, Kofi Salanga. We're going to bounce in the knees, so feet stay on the floor, and hands are just going to cross right in front of the body. I send it to you, send it back. Kofi Salanga. Beautiful. Langa Che Langa. We're tapping right onto our legs. Me first. Langa Che Langa. There it is. Nice. Ooh, ale, ale. We're going to make a fist. Hold it with the other hand. On ooh, we crouch down slightly. Ale, ale, hands come to the side. We have two tiny jumps right where we stand. All right, I send it to you, send it right back. Me first. Ooh, ale, ale. There it is again. Ooh, ale, ale. Beautiful. All right, let's try the whole thing. Really give something of yourself to this. All right, you're going to get back what you pour into it. Bring some energy to it. If there are other people in other rooms at home, or maybe you're at a school and there are other people, like this should be the moment where people are kind of poking their head in the door, like, what is going on in there? Really make it mean something. Be ready for me. Do it with a smile. It'll just be more fun. Che Che Kool-Aid. Yes. Che Kofisa. Beautiful. Kofisa Langa. Thank you. Langa Che Langa. There it is. Ooh, ale, ale. Thank you. Ooh, ale, ale. Beautiful musicians. Thank you, Gordon. Find a seat for me. Pre-kindergarten all the way up through my students up at CalArts. I also teach at a university in Valencia, California Institute of the Arts. I teach in the African music and dance program there, hence a lot of connections to Africa, and in particular Ghana, are going to be happening today. And this sort of span of working with really young students and sort of ushering them into this world of music making, all the way up to my students at CalArts who are incredibly talented and very dedicated to what they're doing. Um, One of the through lines for me in a lot of this work is that kind of energy, that connection, and that joy. And also the second piece that we're really focusing our work around today, even though your first experience was really through that lens of theater with Debbie and Jay, and now you're going to be tackling music and in particular percussion with me. All of us are really focused around this idea of social emotional learning. And so I want to just touch on this a little bit before I kind of frame the day and what we're going to be doing with our music making. We're going to be doing a little bit of work in breakout teams and tapping into some of your own creativity. But this really is the centerpiece of our work. And for social emotional learning, for me, as I started to hear about it and learn a little bit about it and get smarter about it, it really was something that has become kind of a cornerstone in my teaching, in all of my teaching. I used to always be fascinated with where I would have some graduates from CalArts, from the university I teach, that were incredibly talented and just immediately launched into careers of teaching and performing and just took off and hit the ground running. And then I would have some other graduates that were artistically equally talented, but for some reason seemed to kind of struggle to make that transition, turning that talent into either professional opportunities, or joining groups and finding a way to get going. And it was so interesting as I started learning more about social emotional learning. I was kind of like, this is getting at some of that skill set that I saw some of my students maybe needed to spend more time developing to really maximize their potential. And so I feel very, in some ways, fortunate that I get to follow Debbie and Jay because they've unpacked so much of this for me already. In some ways, challenged by it because it's like, right, jumping on the stage after the masters. So there's always something slightly intimidating. But they already took us through these competencies. And for me, when I was first hearing, self-awareness or self-management, responsible decision-making, these all sounded like very important and concrete ideas to me. But the first challenge came, how am I developing this as an artist? How am I tapping into these skills for students and helping them get, for lack of better words, get better at this? How am I allowing them to sort of build these skills? And it was honestly, you see off to the right here, underneath those core competencies, there are a couple of bullet points that start to drill into like, what are some of the skills that are associated with self-awareness or with self-management, like adaptability or optimism or being self-motivated, or social awareness, taking someone else's perspective, relationship skills, working in a team, communicating. And it's when I started to see some of the skills that were associated with those core competencies, that's when I felt like this is the language of the arts. And these are things that we naturally do in our art form, where I don't even really have to craft a lesson to tap into social emotional learning. I might slightly adjust some of my language. In a lesson I would normally teach, I might bring a certain awareness to the learners to really make it explicit to them that along with learning in music, we're also drilling down into some of these social personal skills. But the arts really felt primed to do this. It was almost like we automatically do this, right? That doesn't mean, of course, we don't need to get smarter about it and learn the language around it, but it was beautiful that it was inherently alive in our art form. And I sometimes talk about the idea of the arts. It's like we're automatically integrating when we do the arts. I compare it a lot to sports, right? When my son is getting deep into soccer these days, and when he goes out to learn soccer, it's about learning the skills of soccer, kicking the ball, scoring the goal, which way we're running. He's young. but it's also about learning teamwork and learning sharing, right? And learning like, yeah, I want to have the ball and go score the goal, but sometimes it's better to pass it to my teammate. And sometimes you're going to get kicked in the leg by accident. You've just got to get over that and jump back in and play the game. And you can't help but include those lessons in soccer. There's sort of no way to divorce the sport from those lessons. And I feel very much the same when it comes to the arts and the social emotional learning. I have been to schools where I've seen, in the middle of the class where the teachers maybe have a sort of a standalone social emotional learning lesson. I saw a great program that I think it was called Second Step, where the teachers sort of have a box and they, took some time out of the day and they kind of pulled a poster, and on the poster was an image of maybe two kids arguing on the schoolyard, and the back of the poster had some question prompts for the students, and it was great. I'm a fan of any way of advancing this thinking. But social emotional learning doesn't have to be a standalone 15-minute moment in your day. It's something that we can really infuse in all of the teaching that we're doing. And like I said, the arts are so primed to do it. Quickly before we move on from here, a kind of a definition that really resonated with me around social emotional learning was this: it's the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to, and now these are the key things, to understand and manage emotions, to set and attain positive goals, to feel and show empathy, to establish and maintain positive relationships, and to make responsible decisions, right? And for me, when I read that, that was just clear, like these are skills that matter everywhere and forevermore, right? These matter when we're 3 years old, these matter when we're 90 years old. And so I got excited about it because it just felt like this is a very high leverage cross-curricular area to develop this skill set in, right? And skills, when they assess students and their sort of ability or where they're at when it comes to these social emotional learning skills, they've found that this is actually an equal indicator to IQ when it comes to academic success, K through 12, and actually a better indicator of professional success after they graduate, right? And this is totally intuitive. If you think about this idea of connecting with other people or making responsible decisions or really being able to manage and regulate yourself, again, I think these are all ideas that where we don't have to reach too far to see like why would that be the case. So again, I don't want to dwell too much, and this is not going to be a big PowerPoint presentation. We're into the world of making music, but I want to bring some passion to this idea of social emotional learning and some real grounding as to like why are we all investing our time and energy in that. This is not just the next little bit of new language that's trickling down that by next year is going to be replaced by something else. These are just these sort of fundamental human skills. And I was talking about, my connection to Ghana. We're actually going to go right back to Ghana in the next music activity we're going to do. During my time there, one of the things that I was so struck by, especially when I spent my time in the villages in Ghana, was how connected the community was, how much care and love there was across the board. Excuse me. Where children played freely, of course, because it is a very small and tight-knit community and everyone knew everyone. How much joy there was in the community, how connected people were to each other, and so much of that had to do with just social emotional geniuses, right? And being so connected to each other. And so it's something that I feel is so important to bring to our students. Okay, enough talking. I want to dive into a little bit of music making. I think all of you were primed with the idea of a bit of a scavenger hunt. Hopefully, you've got something that you can tap. Now, that could be absolutely anything. That could be a paper towel roll. That could be two markers that you're tapping together, tapping onto a glass. Some water bottles make fantastic sound. But if you're like, Andrew, what are you talking about? I have absolutely nothing to tap. These will work perfectly for me as well. So clapping hands are totally fine as well. If you've got a tapping sound, beautiful. If not, do clap along. The most important thing is that you're in there participating with me. Okay, and what we're going to do next is kind of what typically would really be a drum circle. This would be, if we were all together in a big space, I would already have distributed some instruments to each team, and we would dive in and play a few patterns back and forth, do a little bit of call and response, play a few patterns as ostinatos, repeating patterns, and layer a few patterns. Well, even though we're working remotely, I still want us to have a chance to tap into this, just to tap into our own music making, tap into kind of the joy that music making has to offer us, and for a little bit of our own self-care. So either have clapping hands ready or a tapping sound ready. I'm going to be playing on my boom whacker. And the first thing I want us to do is just take turns with a few patterns. I'm going to send the pattern to you. When I do, I'm going to connect my voice to it. And then I would like for all of you to send your patterns back, the same pattern back to me with the words, okay? Even if you feel like I've got it perfectly without speaking it, I still want those voices. All right, tapping sounds ready, clapping sounds ready. I send it to you, send it right back. Me first. Let's all play a drum. Let's all. Thank you, Mike. Turn. Let's play drums. Let's play drums. You go. Play drum. Let's play. Yes, I like ice cream cake. Beautiful. Let's play drums and have some fun. Let's play drums. Thank you. Today was a good day. Today. That's it. Let's all play together. Let's all. Thank you. Let's play drums and have some fun. Let's play drums. Thank you. I like to play music. Beautiful. Excellent. Excellent. Now, I'd like to take one of those patterns and play it as an ostinato. That's just a musical term meaning a repeating pattern. All right, so now instead of taking turns, I'm going to let you know what the pattern is. It's going to give us a 1, 2, ready, go. We're all going to jump on the pattern, try and keep the words going, try and keep the eyes on me while we play. We're going to play over and over again. When I give us one of these, we're going to stop as a team. All right, and the pattern I want us to try with is we're going to try with that. Let's all play together. 1, 2, ready, go. Let's all play, keep it going. Let's all play together. Let's all play together. Beautiful, keep it going. Let's all play together. Let's all play together. Let's all play together. Let's all ready and stop. Beautiful. Now this pattern, this let's all play together pattern, is actually a musical pattern that is present in a piece of drumming, singing, and dancing from Ghana. I mentioned earlier that I teach an African music and dance program up at Cal Arts. Drumming and dancing from Ghana is a slice of my kind of musical life that I've dedicated a lot of time to. Right after I graduated from Cal Arts, I just kind of packed all of my stuff into storage for my first trip there. I think was about 6 months, and went to Ghana, and it was long enough really to feel like I was living there. Absolutely, I'm so happy I did that. It was just a life-changing experience to get to connect with that community and just live in such a different way and see how connected people in Ghana were to making art and how almost matter of fact it was, right? Like young little kids in Ghana, they their parents, they didn't teach them the drumming, singing, and dancing. Okay, little babies in the village in Ghana were tied onto their moms and dads' backs with wraps, and mom and dad are on the dance floor dancing while the drumming and singing is going on, and I would see babies asleep on their parents' backs, bouncing with the step of their parents' step, right? Because they'd gotten so used to it, completely asleep. And as soon as that child is old enough to walk, they jump up and start copying what they see their parents do. And the parents tend not even to turn around and correct them or adjust them. They just let them go, right? They have kind of carte blanche. They're just copying and following. And so it was so beautiful that the kids, they were kind of drumming and dancing before they even could make the choice whether they wanted to drum or dance, right? If I saw a young student dancing or a young musician or dancer just dancing beautifully in Ghana, if you went up to them and said, when did you learn how to do that? They really couldn't answer that question for you. It would be like, the way I connect this for my students at Cal Arts is, it's the same way that we keep the song Happy Birthday alive in our tradition, right? It would be like me asking you, when did you learn how to sing Happy Birthday? When did you choose to become a happy birthday singer? None of us really had these moments, right? It's not like your parents said, oh, you're going to go to your first birthday party, come sit at the piano, there's the song you're going to have to learn that we all sing when we go to birthday parties. The first word's happy and it goes like this, right? None of us learned it like that. And we've all been part of teaching that song as we've been at parties singing it, and younger kids are around. So that's kind of like how the art making was alive in Ghana. And so I want to just encourage us as you're tapping into some of the theater ideas that you took a look at with Debbie and Jay this morning, as you dive into some of the music making that we're going to be doing today with your students, is to just bring that sense of sort of playfulness to it, and that sense of engagement, and make it a little bit less about like how perfect is everything, and make it a little bit more about like we're all in it, we're joyful, and we're participating together. That is actually the essence of what this is all about in Ghana. There's a reason that this is large ensemble music. Okay, now this piece of drumming dancing that this Let's All Play Together pattern comes from is called Gota. And Gota is like the freeze dance. There's a moment where the lead drummer plays a fast pattern on the drum I'm going to show it to you in just a moment. That asks all the dancers to jump into a dance movement. And right at the end of that, all the dancers freeze and all the music stops for 4 counts. So I want to see if we can build a break into this Let's All Play Together pattern. Listen to me try this first. We're all going to be playing the Let's All Play Together. And all of a sudden you're going to hear me say, ready and stop. 2, 3, 4, and back comes the pattern again. All right, always the same length. Listen to it again when I say ready and stop. 2, 3, 4, and back it comes again. Let's try that together. Tapping sounds ready, clapping hands ready. 1, 2, ready, go. Let's all play. Keep it going. Let's all together. Let's all play together. Let's all ready and stop. 2, 3, 4. Let's all beautiful. Keep it going. Let's all play together. Let's all play together. Let's all ready and stop. 1 more time. Let's all play together. Let's all play together. Let's all ready and stop. Beautiful, nicely done. All right, musicians, I want to add one more kind of element to this now before we move on from some of our own music making, dive into some ideas we can try with our students. Now, I was mentioning earlier that this is almost like the freeze dance, and the thing that's going to cue the dancers to start dancing is a pattern that the drummer is going to play on the drum. This drum right here is called a sogo. This is one of many, many different drums played in Ghana. We have many language groups that live in Ghana. Each language group really kind of has their own culture, foods they eat, religious beliefs, dances they dance, instruments they play. And so on the sogo, I'm going to be playing that pattern that asks the dancers to start dancing. It's a faster pattern because the dancers are really diving in with energy. Now, when I leave the Let's All Play Together and start to play that faster pattern, I don't want you to go fast with me. This is all about seeing if you can hang on to your Let's All Play Together while I'm doing the fast drumming over the top. And then right at the end, you're going to hear me cue for that ready and stop, that break that we worked on. Okay, the pattern you're playing would normally be played on that gonkobi, that bell that I was playing earlier for our Cheche Kule. This is like the team, the musical ensemble's timekeeper. All the dancers are aligning their steps to this. The drummers are, the singers are. So that's the part you're going to be doing for me with clapping hands or on your tapping sounds. Let's see if we can catch these breaks together. All right? Be ready for me. Ready for that? Let's all play together. 1, 2, here we go. Let's all play. Keep it going. Let's all give me energy now. Play together. Let's all 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 play together. Let's ready and stop. 2, 3, 4. Beautiful. Let's catch one more. Bring energy to it. Let's all play together. 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 Ready and stop. Beautiful. Very nicely done. Thank you, everyone, for that energy. All right, if you have a tapping sound, you can relax it for a moment. Nice. Okay, everyone. First, again, thanks for your willingness to dive right into that Cheche Kule with me, just to play a little bit. For us to get as close as we can to feeling that sense of community that this music making is all about. Especially in Ghana, one of the things that really drew me to this music was that I went to CalArts as a student, and I was there for jazz drum set. And what so enchanted me about the African ensemble there was that sense of community, that it is large ensemble music. In Ghana, there is always a purpose for the music making. Okay, it is actually the most common time that we see drumming and dancing in Ghana is actually at funerals. Okay, now a young person passes away, there is no drumming, singing, and dancing. But an adult passes away, the funeral is actually a time to celebrate the life of the person that has passed away. And we all gather to drum, sing, and dance. We share the funny stories that we share with that person. We celebrate the successes that they achieved in their life. And we drum, sing, and dance to kind of send them off with that joy from the community. It's a really, really kind of a beautiful lens to see all of that through. But it is always about connecting the community. Something challenging happens within the community. We all gather to drum, sing, and dance, and it's almost like the music making is a vehicle for connecting and for togetherness. And so the whole idea of starting with a little bit of playing today was, like I said, to try and tap us into a little bit of that. And that is honestly the same kind of culture that I'm trying to create in the classroom. When I'm working as a teaching artist and I come in and we dive into some music making with students, be it music from Ghana or what I'm going to be bringing all of us into today, which is a residency that I do around scoring stories, creating music for stories. But this really, it's about communal music making. And so today we're going to take a look at a couple of ideas that are going to allow us to hopefully start to make some communal music in the classroom to facilitate this process for students. We're going to take a look at how can we create patterns to play, first of all. Right, it's like some of that call and response I was doing with you to start us off today. One of the things that allowed it to happen, allowed it to kind of click the way it did, was that I was making sure every pattern I was sending to you fit into the space that musicians call 4 beats. That's really important for that back and forth to work. So I'm going to show you how can you create 4-beat patterns for yourself if you want to do some sending patterns back and forth with your students, and also how can you get the students to create the patterns, which is of course the best way to go about it, right? And when I have students score stories, or we do it as a team, or have them do it in small groups, they're writing the patterns. So the first piece we're going to take out is really connecting students to the literacy of music. How can we read it? How can we write it? How can we hear a pattern in our mind's ear and put it to paper so that other musicians could play it, or so that we could remember it next week? Then we're going to take a look at 3 elements of music, these kind of 3 big building blocks that I tell my students are basically like our secret sauce. They now allow us to take the patterns that we've created and play them so that they can match other ideas. Okay, so when I'm talking about this idea of scoring a story, you can think of that almost like if you were watching a film and there's music going on for the movie, right? Something exciting is happening. If we're blasting off into outer space, what is the music going to sound like for that, right? Things are starting to go wrong on the spaceship. I mean, we heard a great example of that earlier today from Brad on the piano, right? Like you could hear how the intensity of the music changed when all of a sudden, like, oh no, we're in a dangerous situation. How was he doing that? How was he allowing the music to kind of follow the emotional arc of the storytelling and really tug at our heartstrings, right? There's a reason that composers write music for films. It's because oftentimes we're so consciously focused on the dialogue and the actual events in the movie that the music just slips in right underneath that and kind of subconsciously really can affect where our mood is at. And it's these 3 elements of music that we're going to unpack today that are a big part of making that happen. And then we're going to play a little bit in teams, because it's really there that all of that magic of the social emotional learning to me starts to happen. Right, so it's a little bit less about what's going on now, which is me speaking to all of you and all of you silently sitting there and listening, right? We're going to have moments like that in the classroom where we're disseminating information or transmitting some knowledge. But to me, the magic really happens when I've given the artists in my classroom a couple of maybe a few skills, a couple of little blots of paint on their artist palette, And then I do the most important thing in the lesson, which is step out of the way and have a seat and let them get to work and create. And especially, if they're old enough to do it in teams, that's where I start to see all of the gears turning, all the neurons firing, all the conversation starting to happen. Some of the students that are maybe a little bit more shy and tend to lean back are in a smaller group now, so they're going to open up and speak more. And so those are always the moments we're trying to get to. So first, let's take a look at how we create patterns. This is one portion where I really am adjusting how I would typically show this to you. Because if we were all in the same space together, this would actually be something that's happening completely non-verbally, where there is no talking at all. And it's the same way that I show it to the students. Now, that's if my students are second grade and up, we always do it non-verbally. If my students are, TK, kindergarten, first grade, it depends a little bit. This is usually lesson 2. I've got a sense of the students before, and I try to aim it for what I feel is going to be most effective for the particular population. But I try as much as possible to remove the voice altogether. And so today, because we're doing this remotely, I'm going to have to talk us through some aspects of it. But as I'm showing it to you, I'll try and explain to you how I would do it non-verbally. And after it's done, I'll quickly touch on why I do it that way as well. Okay, so I usually set this up for the students simply telling them that we're about to take a look at creating patterns. And we're going to do a little bit of learning without talking. And that means I'm going to need their help for us to figure out what's going on up here. And I might build something with my cups and ask for a volunteer. And if I do, and they think they know what's going on up here, I'm going to ask them to be brave and shoot up their hand to offer to help me out. And if I call on them to help me, they can help me right from where they're sitting. I always let them know they don't have to come to the front of the classroom to help me out. They can help me out right from where they're sitting. And that's usually all the setup I give. And then off we go. So I kind of turn off the voice. Cup. And I got my third cup, and right before I go to clap, I will kind of just gesture across the room and see if I get a volunteer. And usually I'll get a few volunteers. Of course, what I'm looking for is a student to give me 3 claps. That usually happens pretty quickly, not necessarily on the first try. I've had students, when I call on them, pantomime setting down the cups and doing the claps that way. But as long as I get 3 claps, that's what I need, right? Maybe I'll have a student start to explain, and I'll say, oh, no, I don't want to see the voice, right? Do what I'm doing, so I'll show them the 3 claps. But the goal is to, all right, I get the 3 claps, they get a big thumbs up. And then I will ask for the whole team to do it. I'll say, wait, everybody wait. I'll give them a 1, 2, ready, go, and I'll get 3 nice claps for my team, and we'll stop there again. All of this is happening with the voice off, just through a little bit of sign language, right? And sort of communicating almost through pantomime. Here we are back in the world of pantomime again, although I'm not really handling objects. So again, part of this is it's not always going to flow the same way if it would as I'm talking, right? It puts me a little bit more on that edge of like, the students have a little bit of control of where this goes, but that's part of what makes it fun. It's always a little different. So then I'll pull out the 4th cup, again, ask for a volunteer. I'll typically get my 4 claps, tell them that's it, then we'll try it all together. So let's try this one all together. Everybody get ready with me, eyes on the cups. 1, 2, ready, go. We're gonna do clap. Beautiful, awesome. And then I will pull this guy out. All right, and there'll be a little bit of oohing and awing in the room, like, oh, the red cup has come out, right? And then I'll tell them, okay, everybody, just watch me, watch me. I'll put that there, and I'll give them. All right, watch me one more time. Maybe I'll demonstrate it one more time. And I'll say, okay, now let's try it all together. And everybody join me on this. 1, 2. Beautiful. Let's try it backwards. Go. Beautiful. Everybody make sure you're clapping along with me. Nice. Now I'll do this. We're go this way. Let's try it together. 1, 2, 3, go. Beautiful. Try this. Nice. See, this is just a quick aside. This is one of the really, like, learning this on Zoom with your mute on is like the safest way you can learn it, right? You're giving me like some giant extra clap all by yourself. Nobody knows about that except you. You just enjoy that moment for yourself, right? And those moments are actually really important. When I have a big old clap from one of my students, right, where when it wasn't supposed to be there, we talk about that. I always tell them that is learning in action right there. Okay, do not like, oh, I made a mistake. That is called learning. I was mentioning actually to the last group of TEALers that we were working with, I was going through that with my son, the homeschooling thing, right? Which was like, what a challenge, what a challenge. I really thought I was bringing like a bit of a special skill set to the homeschooling thing because up at CalArts where I teach African music and dance, but I also teach pedagogy. So I was like, hey, I got this thing. My son, and my daughter, but especially my son, he's a little older, he let me know really quickly, he's 8, he was like, Daddy, I don't know, like you shouldn't teach people how to teach because you're not good at it. It's boring when you do it, like it's just, like he was really mystified as to how I part of my job was teaching other people how to teach. And he wasn't quite understanding like why, you know, it doesn't quite click for me in the same way. But one of the things I noticed when he was doing his work, right, he would do a math problem, he would get all frustrated and erase it and fix it. And I was like, Leo, that you just learned. That's learning. You can't get frustrated when you do that. I would see my students at CalArts doing that. We're in the middle of a lesson, they play something, it gets a little off, and they're like, oh, it's like, no, you can't bring that into your practice. You're going to do that on stage, right? If every time you make a mistake in the lesson, you're going, oh, and pulling yourself out of the music and having this moment of just sort of wallowing in your misery, that's going to happen on stage. Like you must train yourself out of that right now. And so with my son, I was like, that's learning in action. You kiss the brain, right? Like kiss that brain. You just learned something. And it took a little while, but it was, you know, like about 3-4 months ago, I had my first moment of just like being on the other side of the living room when I saw him working and he stopped, erased something, kissed his brain and kept writing and I was just like, yes, right, that idea has connected. So a clap out of place, a dance step out of place, we celebrate those moments, right? We're in a world of creativity. If all we're worried about is not making a mistake, we're never working on the edge of our capabilities. How are we doing anything interesting? How are we doing anything creative? You know, save that for other parts of the instruction if it's more important. In the world of the arts, we hug those moments. All right, let's give this a go now. 1, 2, ready, go. Beautiful. Now here is where this comes out. And I get more oohs and ahs from the crowd, right? Oh, what are we going to do with the clear cup? So I'll say, okay, wait. This one was 1. This one, how many? And they'll usually tell me, okay, that one was 2. All right, we got it. Then this one I'll say, what do you think? How many? And they'll guess 3, and they'll guess 4, and they'll guess 5, and no, it's not 3, it's not 4, it's not 5. Eventually somebody will get to 0, right? That's it, it's 0. So our clear cup is basically like our rest. We do not clap at all. And now this is actually really challenging for students, right? This idea of something holding a place and we're not clapping in that place. And so I'll really try and drive the point home by setting up this pattern. I try the best I can to bring a little bit of like humor to the cups. I've always felt that, you know, if I could do like a nice little, by now, Debbie and Jave see me do this enough. I bet if I could get like a good like half-hour hit with them, they could bring in a few more things that I could do to like really enchant the students with this. So I might really kind of prepare myself for this and steel myself for the performance that's about to go and really ground my focus, and then for rests, maybe I'll take a quick bow for that. Then we'll try it all together, right? And we'll do the 4 rests. And I will have students sometimes clapping on that. Like even going through all that, they just sort of see that gesture and see that cup and clap, right? We always think, how hard could it be not to clap? But it actually is really challenging, right? So if I get a few claps up, let's try it one more time. I'll start them off and we'll all do the 4 rests. And I will end with this pattern. I'm going to tell the students we're going to do this 4 times. Again, this is all nonverbal. 4 times here. We're not going to clap here. We're going to clap. All right, so let's try this all together. Try it with me. 1, 2. Beautiful. And it's right here that I'll turn the voice back on. Okay, and this all will unfold without all the different asides that just happened. This usually will take somewhere around 12 to 15 minutes of silence with the students. So it's a pretty long time for them to kind of be in this quiet classroom outside of just hearing clapping. So I'll turn the voice back on. They'll all sort of emote about the voice going back on. And we'll have a quick chat about how did we know what to clap. And of course, what I'm trying to get them to identify is this is just a color-coded system, right? We see blue, we clap once, red, we clap twice, and clear, we don't clap at all. And so then I'll tell them that building our own pattern is as simple as picking 4 cups, right? You see, I always stop when I got to 4 cups. That's not because of the size of my table here. That's just because we're trying to create patterns, again, that fit into that magical space that musicians call 4 beats. So building our pattern is, like I said, as easy as picking 4 cups. And no matter what we pick, and we just cannot be wrong. So I want us to quickly build a pattern as a team. And I want to do this like without taking too much time. So I'm going to ask absolutely anyone, even though I know we're a big team, we've got 60 of us. Somebody just unmute yourself and tell me if you want blue, red, or clear. And you just cannot pick a wrong cup. You pick. What would you like first?
Red.
Or red. Red it is. Beautiful. Remember, you cannot be wrong. This is the safest composing you'll ever do. Next cup. What would you like next? Blue, red?
Another red.
Another red. I love that. I have to let you know that I do this. I've probably done it about 1,000 times by now. 99.7% of the time, my first 3 cups are some combination of blue, red, and clear. There's just this weird innate thing of like, let's get them all out, and then we'll make a creative choice on the last one. All right, next cup. What would we like?
Clear.
Clear. Love it. Last cup.
Blue.
Look at that agreement. We had to get it out there. Nice. I like it. Now, everyone, I'm going to give us a 1, 2, ready, go. We're going to try and clap this. Now, my prediction when I do this with my students is we will mostly agree, and even if we really were 62 in a room, as adults, we would largely agree on this, but there would be a little bit of, shall we call it, improvisation in there, right? There would be a little bit of disagreement. I would tell you to look out for this one right here, right? Again, people think, how hard could it be not to clap? Rests are super tricky. They allow this moment for what percussionists call strong and wrong, right? When you're just out there with a giant clap all by yourself and the other 61 people in the room kind of turn around like, who just clapped on that rest, right? So we have that total safety right now, and clap with gusto. Be there with me. Right after we clap this, I'm going to show you a little trick that's going to allow us to be more accurate on our first go. Let's give it a try. 1, 2, ready, go. Nice. All right. Now, we probably had a couple of claps at the rest, maybe a little bit of disagreement right near the end. For me, this little trick I was telling you for us to be able to clap these cups more accurately on the first try is I want us to be able to hear the cups in what I call our mind's ear, which basically means I want us to be able to speak the cups. And so I'm going to show you some drumming syllables that actually come to us from India. In India, drummers have this amazing way of speaking patterns. Dagana tanakadina dagana tanakadina takadimi takadimi takadida katagadigina nagana nagana takadida katagadigina da katagadigina da katagadigina dagana tanakadina da, just by speaking the drumming sounds. And so I want to connect some of these to cups. For our blue cup, we're going to speak it by saying ta, right? Single clap, ta. So I want to send this to you. You send it back to me. Really put some intention into your voices. Feel them as a percussive instrument. If I send to you ta, Don't send it back to me. Really bring some energy to it, all right? I send it to you, send it back. Ta! Thank you. Ta! Ta, ta! Beautiful. Ta, ta! Excellent. Now, our red cup, 2 claps, we're going to say taka. Taka. I send it to you, send it back. Taka. Thank you. Taka. Taka, taka. Now, I need everyone's voices in there. Taka, taka. Thank you. Taka, ta.
Taka.
Ta, taka. Beautiful. Clear cup, we're just going to say rest. Taka, rest.
Taka, rest.
Beautiful. Thank you. Now, I'm going to send it to you, send it back to me. Taka, taka, rest. Ta, your turn. Taka, taka, rest. Ta. Beautiful. Now let's see if we can speak and clap it. Again, look out for the rest. We're speaking it, but we're trying not to clap on it. Let's try it. Eyes up. 1, 2, voice and clap. Taka, taka, rest. Ta. Beautiful. And if we were all in the same room, you would feel us pulling more together using the once we can speak it. Now, if I'm doing this in classroom with the students, at this point, if we're 3rd grade on up, we're breaking into teams, right? Remember, that's kind of my holy grail that I'm trying to always get to with that creative spot with the students. Give them some gear, give them some approaches, some creative ideas, and get out of the way. Let them get to work with each other. And so it'll be stack of blue cups, stack of red cups, stack of clear cups, and maybe we're doing teams of 4 to 6, and they're building patterns. And the great thing about the cups is they're manipulative, right? So it's different than putting pen to paper. Students are trying different ideas. Let's try this one. Let's try this one. And they're just getting creative with it. And I'll do stuff like each team will build a pattern and play it for the other teams. Hey, let's rotate this team. See if you can go over to that team's pattern and build it and play it. If the students aren't old enough to work in teams, I might let each student select a cup. One at a time. I want blue, I want blue, I want red, I want blue. Then I'll set down a drumstick, and the next one will make a really long pattern that kind of spans across the floor of 4 cup patterns, and have the students read it forwards and backwards. And why do we read it backwards? Just for fun, right? For repetition, for just working in a way that might surprise them a little bit. And like I said, they get really creative with it. One time I had this one from a 2nd grader. I was like, oh, what you got there? And she gave me ta, 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 ta. She made that a footstep. I was like, that's such a cool idea, right? This was the first day that I kind of test drove this idea of the cups with the students. Not my first class, but my first day. I was in the back of the room, and I had a team, 3rd graders, 4 boys, and I saw them doing this, and I thought, here I was trying to make the lesson more enchanting by doing it with the cups, and I failed. They're bored. They're building pyramids in the back. So when I went over to kind of stomp out whatever nonsense was happening in the back of the room, they're like, no, 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 no. And they started reading taka, ta, taka, ta, 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 which was, again, really cool and creative, right? So I lowered my foot without stomping down the nonsense, and I said, that's a really cool idea, but remember, I need 4 cup patterns. But that's the whole idea, is to just let them create a little bit and play with it, right? So now I've pulled my teams back together, talked a little bit about that creative process, and I will throw these shapes up on the board and ask them, has anyone ever seen shapes that look like this? And usually, almost all the hands in the room go up, even for younger students, right? By the time my daughter was 2 or 3, she would see those shapes in a book and say, oh, look, daddy music, daddy music. So they have some sense of them. And then I would ask them, even if these are new shapes for you, can you tell which one is ta and which one is taka? And of course they can, right? It's super intuitive. Now I will, and we'll have a quick chat. How do we know this is ta? How do we know this is taka? Okay, it's connected. We can see it's 2. I show them that I draw my tas and takas a little different than they might be used to seeing them. But the only reason that I'm drawing mine with slashes here is so I can write them a little faster. So I don't have to take all the time to color in this part that we would call the note head, right? So if we know this is ta and this is taka, then I feel like I should be able to do something like this. And I'm just going to give us a 1, 2, ready, go. And everyone just join me speaking this with me, if you would. Just your voice. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 ga, ta. Beautiful. Now, if we know that one is ta and that one is taka, what is this? It's got to be the rest, right? It's got to be the rest. It's all that's left. So the cups is really intentionally designed with 3 different colors, 2 colors, 1 clear, so that the students can get to this just through process of elimination. All right, the whole idea with me introducing them to this literacy side of music is I don't want the 2 or 3 students in class that are maybe taking piano lessons to dominate the conversation. I don't want students who've maybe never touched any of this before to feel like, now we're getting back in, the cups made sense, but now we're getting all back into the stuff I don't know about. I really want us all on equal footing, just able to apply a little bit of logic to solve this, right? So let's speak this one. I'm going to give us a 1, 2, ready, go. We'll speak the rests. 1, 2, ready, go. Rest, rest, ta, ga, ta. Awesome. Now, once I show them those 2, I might very quickly have them just create one more pattern for me on the board. And I'm going to just write it for the sake of time and speed for us. But now, instead of them asking me for a blue cup or a red cup or a clear cup, what they're asking for is a ta, a taka, or a rest, right? So students might say like, oh, I want a taka or I want a ta. And maybe for the last pattern, I'll even invite some of the students up to write the pattern for me so they can start to get used to the shapes. With the rest, I usually introduce it to the students as a lazy Z, like the letter Z leaning back on itself with a C on the bottom, right? And then maybe they'll give a few shapes a go. So now we end up with these 4 patterns. And I'm going to give us a quick 1, 2, ready, go. I want you to use your tapping sound, your clapping hands, and your voice. The voice is actually the most important one for me when it comes to reading down music like this. I really need to hear the students speaking it. And the reason for that is it really evens things out, right? This becomes ta, 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 ga, ta. Without speaking it, sometimes instead of it sounding nice and even, ta, 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 ga, ta, I'll get it sounding like this. Like the taka, it'll just be 2 fast claps instead of nice and even spread across the beat. So the magic really is in the voice. So let's give this a try. We're going to read it all the way down, top to bottom. Speak it while you play it. 1, 2. Oh, let me grab my tapping sound. I'm going to play with it. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 ga, ta. Rest, rest, ta, ga, ta. Ta, ga, ta, ta, ga, ta. Rest, ta, ga, ta, ga, ta. Beautiful. Now we might try it backwards, right? We might try reading it this way. But if you think about the process that we just went through, a lot of parallel processes between reading music and reading language. We're tracking left to right. We're always looking slightly ahead of the moment, right? Looking slightly ahead of what we're playing. We're turning visual stimuli into sound. So a lot of kind of parallel processes going on there, a lot of similarities. Now, I have taken a lot of teachers and students through this process, and it's interesting. I've had teachers say like, oh, the cups are great, and this kind of makes sense to me, but they're like, but it's not really reading music, because real music is always written on those 5 lines that we see going across. Well, those 5 lines that go across this way is what we would call a staff, a musical staff, and those give us high and low sounds. We would be looking at our music on a musical staff if we were writing music for a piano or something we were going to sing, right? But if we're writing percussion, rhythmic patterns like we're writing here, those are typically written on what we would call like this, a free-floating staff or a staff with 1 line. So, it really is, it's actual music, but of course there are more shapes. Right, just like I've had some teachers say like, oh, I'm not sure if it's real because it doesn't have lines. I've also heard other teachers say like, wow, I can read music now. And yes, you can, but we've only tackled 3 shapes. There are more than these 3 shapes. And I'm going to show you in just a moment how comfortably we can add in one more. But quickly before I do that, I want to just back up to this idea of why did I start from the cups? I've done a lot of student reflection around this, and I've never really boiled it down to the exact numbers, but my guess would be that somewhere around 70% of students tell me that this is easier for them to read than this. And that actually totally makes sense to me. Because there's an extra step involved with the cups. You have to connect color to number, right? You have to remember that blue is 1, you have to remember that red is 2. Whereas in the notation, it's really just feeding it to you. It's really showing you whether it's 1 or 2. So then the question becomes like, well, why even do this step, right? Wouldn't it just be easier to start off from what's more comfortable? And honestly, this is where I used to start. The reason that the cups started to come into my teaching was this was usually the lesson where I would lose students a little bit. Okay, the first lesson I get together, we're kind of doing a drum circle, sort of how we started off our day. You've got a boom whacker under your chair, you've got a drum, you've got a tambourine, we're playing, we're having fun, I'm up on my feet, we're doing Che Che Kool-Aid. And at the end of that hour, all the students are like, drum guy, we love you. We love you, and we love the toys that you bring with you, and when are you coming back again, because we want to play some more, right? And then I show up on the second day, and I'm standing at the board with a marker in my hand, drawing all these shapes, and they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And where's my drum? Right now you're doing like the same thing all the others are doing. Stop it. We thought like you were the fun guy with the drums. And honestly, for a couple of years, I was just like, listen, eat your vegetables. Okay. I know I'm the music guy. It doesn't mean that everything's supposed to be fun, right? You're in school. Like, you got to do this because I'm your teacher and I'm telling you have to do it. So like, eat your green beans. Here's your notation. The drums will be back next week. But what I started to realize was that this stuff wasn't drudgery for me. There's a lot of creative kind of potential that's unlocked through having a shared symbol system. And I kind of thought like, right, there's a little bit of an onus or an obligation on me as a teacher. Like, this is enchanting. I just have to find like, what is the way to make it enchanting? And honestly, a big part of that was don't talk while you do it. I mean, that is actually the biggest magic of the cup is like, of the cups is stop talking. And it didn't start off totally silently. It started off, and I started to find that like, dude, the more you stop talking, the better it gets. And eventually was able to completely remove the voice. So the whole purpose of the cups is to just flip it a little bit, right? It's the hook in. It's the way to enchant a little bit. It's the way to create that moment in the classroom and like, weird, okay, the new visiting guy is not going to talk. Weird. Ooh, he just called on Sally. Let's see if she gets it. She got it, right? It's to create a little bit of that sort of that mystery, like help me to figure this out, bringing a little bit of that sort of constructivist approach to it. The cups for me never come back. Okay, once I've unlocked this for the students, this is the shared symbol system that is used across the world. There are many places where they don't even use our script to write language, and they still write music using these shapes. This is a totally invented symbol system, right? There's no music book that tells you a blue solo cup is 1 clap, right? It's made up. This is really what I want them to focus on. So as they start to get more comfortable with this, maybe the second day, I'll start to introduce more shapes, right? And I want to just quickly show you how comfortably we can pull one more shape into this. So I'll put the shape up on the board for the students and ask them how many taps in the shape. And they will usually pretty comfortably guess 4 taps, right? Because it's just, again, it's super intuitive. Now, the way we speak this shape is ta, ka, di, mi. Okay, so I'm going to send it to you, send it back to me. Me first. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ka. Thank you, my turn. Ta, ka, di, mi. Send it back. Ta, ka, di. There it is. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta. Thank you. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ka, di, mi. Send it back. Di, mi, ta. Yes. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta. Your turn. Ta, di, mi, ta. Thank you. Ta, di, mi, ta. Your turn. Ta, di, mi, ta. Thank you. Ta, di, mi, ta, di, mi, ta, di, mi, ta. Your turn. taka-dee-me, Beautiful. One more time. Taka-dee-me-ta. Ta-ka-ta. Your turn. Taka-dee-me-ta. Ta-ka-ta. Awesome. Now, I would not normally, again, this would be happening over the course of a few lessons. I'm kind of telescoping for us here. But I want to show you just by adding the voice how comfortable it is to bring another shape into this process, right? So let's see if we can do this one time with just our voices, and then we'll see if we can't bring it to the instruments. Eyes up for me. 1, 2, just your voice. Here we go. Ta, ta, taka-dee-me-ta, ta, taka-dee-me-ta-ka-ta, ta-ka-ta, taka-dee-me-ta, rest, taka-taka-dee-me-ta. Beautiful. Now, if that wasn't perfect, remember it's not supposed to be, right? We're just playing with it. Let's see if we can speak and play it. Find your tapping sound. Find your clapping hands. Make sure the voice is in there for me. Eyes up. Play with a smile. 1, 2, ready, go. Here we go. Ta, ta, taka-dee-me-ta, ta, taka-dee-me-ta, ka, ta, ta-ka-ta, taka-dee-me-ta, rest, taka-taka-dee-me-ta. Beautiful. Now, everyone, remember, it's probably, 15 minutes ago or so that I pulled out the cups, right? And look at these patterns. Like, things are now starting to get pretty complicated. And again, it is all the magic of the voice. Now, could you use any sounds? Yes, you can. You could read this. Beans, beans, enchilada beans, beans, enchilada taco beans. You could actually use absolutely any sound, right? But the reason that I'm not using numbers, Western musicians would count 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Numbers were just not made for music. Okay, 1 and 2 and is really clunky on the voice. These syllables were designed for music. Ta is really precise, right? You can really fly with them. They're super musical. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's just too clunky in the voice. So this is not something I'm doing with students to make it more friendly for younger musicians. Musicians that come to me at CalArts that are trained counting numbers, I ask them to let it go. I show them how to recite rhythms in this way. So we're bringing this to our students because it's the best that we've got, not because it's more comfortable for them. Okay, now, creating your own 4-beat pattern. This is going to be one of the things I'm asking you to do in just a moment when I send you into a breakout team, okay? Don't worry, I'm going to have a little progression, a little Google Doc I'm going to share with you that's going to remind you of what all the different shapes are. And give you a little progression as to how you're going to create that pattern. But just remember, it's 4 shapes. Now, I mentioned the secret sauce, the elements of music. Now, for these, let me just quickly share my screen here because they'll be a little bit easier to see on here than on my whiteboard. So, creating our rhythms. Okay, we've got our tas, our takas, our rests, and we even added in takadimis because we're overachieving here today. Our elements of music. These are our secret sauce. So we're going to kind of just fly by these pretty quickly, but I do tend to linger on these with the students. This will typically be an entire lesson where we'll play a little bit in the beginning, reconnect to our notation, and then I'll unpack these elements of music. And the first one I start with is tempo, which is, of course, the speed of the music or the beat. And we'll try and bring that word to life a little bit. We'll try and really turn it into a tangible experience rather than just unpacking the meaning. We might, if it's younger students, I'll immediately ask them to apply it. What if we want to take our pattern that I've written here, ta, ta, taka-dee-me-ta, and play it to match a turtle? What tempo would we pick, right? What if I want to play it really fast? You pick the animal that we could pick to match a fast tempo. Oh, let's play it for a cheetah. Beautiful. What if I want to play a cheetah stalking its prey and then chasing it? Oh, we could start slow and get faster. And we'll try those. We'll actually try them, right? But the idea is to right away engage the students And how can that abstraction start to take place, right? We're going to take a pattern. I want to play the pattern to match an animal. The tempo is one of the elements that I can manipulate to create that abstraction, to musically represent the animal. If students are a little older, maybe that discussion becomes a little bit more sophisticated, right? I might reference some of my own work. I might tell them, oh, a few years ago, I got called to work on this really bizarre movie called Cowboys and Aliens. And there literally was a moment in the movie where the cowboy was getting chased on their horse with an alien in a spaceship chasing the cowboy. What kind of a tempo do you think the composer might have picked for that? No, fast, we'll jump out at them right away, right? And then we'll try to unpack that a little bit. Why did the composer pick a fast tempo? Well, the horse is moving fast and the spaceship is moving fast. We want to match that. We're going to pick a fast tempo. Try to get them to dig even deeper, right? How does the cowboy feel? There's an element of danger in the scene. Is the horse's heart beating fast or slow? We'll have a discussion about who's the music for that I made. Because I saw the actors on the screen while I was playing my music. They had already done their thing. Who's that music for? And really getting them to connect to the idea of that's for the audience, right? How we kind of pull them into the feeling. So one of the choices we're going to make is about tempo. Do we want our music fast or slow? Then we'll unpack dynamics in the same way. It's the idea of playing loud or soft. We might play a game where I have them follow my signals to tap their instruments loud or soft, really loud, really soft. Again, to try and bring the word to life. We'll have some discussions around it. What if I wanted to play music to match an exploding volcano? What if I wanted to play music for a lullaby? We think a little bit about how we would make choices about dynamics. And the final element is timbre. And timbre, it looks like timbre. It's a French word. It's pronounced timbre. That is really thinking about the sound of the instrument itself. And for us, that becomes about instrument selection. Okay, if I told you I'm making music for two dinosaurs playing tag in the forest, and I could have this timbre, or I could have this timbre, there's a stronger choice here in terms of which sound better connects to the idea of dinosaurs playing tag in the forest, right? Sometimes I'll have students score animals in teams, and I won't pick the animal, I'll give them the instrument, right? And so I'll have a team of 4 students, I'll give all 4 of them shakers, and say, okay, you pick the animal to score. You can imagine I get a lot of rattlesnakes from the team that get shakers, right? They oftentimes will pick, it's the timbre, the sound of the instrument that's kind of driving their choice there. So I bring lots of instruments with me as we score our stories, depending on what they're trying to connect to in the story. They will pick specific timbres, right? If we have an ominous moment in our story, or I have students do earth sciences, right? So they will do the earthquake. A lot of times my earthquake team is starting off with the thunder drums, right? To kind of show those tectonic plates moving under the ground first. They kind of like that timbre, and then the drums will kick in with a rhythm. Or if there's an ominous, scary moment in the story, a character walking into the basement, right? They'll kind of use that. The timbre of the instrument itself creates that sort of scary, creepy feeling. So these are the 3 ideas I'm going to be asking you to make choices about when you do a little bit of creating in your team. And you're basically, timbre, you're going to be a little limited, right? Because I don't have the luxury of being in the same room with you, and you don't have all of my percussion instruments available. But you can think a little bit about like some tapping sounds you might have readily available, or of course you can use clapping hands. But we're really going to be focused on the idea of tempo and dynamics. Now, what am I having you score? Well, I'm going to be asking you to select one of these words from our mood meter here. And this mood meter is really, as it says to the left, a tool for students to self-assess their current state of just mind and where they're kind of at, and to become a little bit more self-aware, right? One of the things that Debbie and Jay talk quite a bit about when it comes to this idea of social emotional learning is having your own awareness of where you at, how do you feel? And this mood meter is one way for students to kind of place themselves on it and get a sense of, to kind of checking in with themselves. Again, don't worry about copying these words down. They'll be in my instructions. But you're going to be in a team of 4. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to select the word itself. And so I'm going to pick one. I'm just going to pick the word tired. I think I kind of pulled that one out from the options that I gave all of you. And then the next thing I asked you to do is to create a pattern with your team. Now, I'm going to probably suggest that each of you writes the pattern down on a piece of scratch paper, but you can make it as a group. Again, there's 4 of you in a group. Each person could pick a shape, right? You could say, okay, I want to start with ta, I want a taka, I want a takadimi, and I want to rest. And you just write them all down. Make sure you've got your pattern put together. I would encourage you, though, have a quick chat with your team about, do you think we need a busier pattern? Do we need a pattern with more takadimis in it? Like, for example, maybe excited? Or do we want a pattern that's not quite as busy, like maybe are sad or tired or depleted, right? So for tired, I might think about a pattern that doesn't have too many taps in it and maybe has a rest or two. So let's say our team put this together. But again, there's no right or wrong, right? You're just kind of thinking, do we want more taps? Do we want more space? And your word is going to drive that. Let each person in the group pick a shape. Make sure everybody's got it written down. Then you're going to make a choice about tempo. You're going to quickly talk through with your group. Do we want it fast or slow? Now for tired, I assume my team would probably pick, we're going to play it slow. You're going to make a choice about dynamics. Do we want it loud or soft? Well, when I'm tired, I'm usually feeling kind of sleepy and dozing off, so I'm leaning a little bit more towards the softer side. Timbre, you're probably not all going to find the same sound to play. You could decide, hey, let's do this one on leg tap, so it's a little softer. We're going to use clapping hands, or everybody just use their own tapping sound. For me, if I was going to play tired, I might select a timbre like this. This is an instrument called a spoke. I might try. And really slow and soft to try and show that tired feeling. Right? Now, once you've done your composing work, there's another little progression written up for you to actually practice what it is that you've put together with your team. You're going to select the leader, and they're going to give you a 1-2 ready go. And the first thing you're going to do is just see if you can speak through this all together. Now, again, everybody but the leader will have to be muted. So the leader is going to give the 1-2 ready go and start to speak it. Rest of the team join them and just make sure you're comfortable with the pattern. Then see if you can speak and clap it or try it on your tapping sound. Again, this is all written out in the progression. But it's at this moment that you're really switching from being the composer, the person writing the music, making choices about the elements, to being the musician, the person actually playing the music. And I want you to have some time in that space, practicing it with your group, working through. Of course, you can always unmute if you have questions, or you can take some turns and share the role of being either the person initiating the pattern. Let's try this one together one time. Use your tapping sound, use your clapping hands. I'm going to give us a 1-2 ready go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 rest. Ta, 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 rest. Right, and that's what you're going to be doing with your team. Now, leader, you don't have to have it up on a board like I have it here. Everybody can just have it written down on their own paper. Really try and honor the choices you made. If you picked a slow tempo, give a nice slow 1-2 ready go. You'll probably have time to practice it more than once. The more drastic, the more dramatic you are on the elements, the more powerful they become. All right, now everyone, I want to send us into teams to do a little bit of work together. If you have a question, you can drop it into the chat, and I think that's going to come my way. And I'm going to quickly share with all of you a Google Doc that has the kind of progression that I would like for you to go through in your teams. And I think the way that this is going to work best is before you jump into your breakout teams, go ahead and pull up this Google Doc. And then what you can do is just maybe move it to the right side of your screen so that you can have it up. And then you can actually make your Zoom window a little bit smaller just by grabbing the edge and dragging it in so that you can have your 4 people that you'll be in the breakout group with on the left side of your screen as you've got the directions on the right side of the screen. And musicians, I'm going to give us, let's say about 10 minutes to try and map this out and plan it. And then do a little bit of practice. Now, I want to let you know before you're heading out to the Zoom room, because we're over Zoom, there's no way for us to even share this out when we come back. So the goal of doing this work is not let's get something together so we have it ready to share out when we reconnect as a big group. Remember that this is that magic moment I was talking about where I sit down and your neurons start firing and your gears start turning. And so I want you to kind of bring that awareness as you're going through that creative process. Imagine, what would this be like for my students? What would it be like with the different personalities in the classroom kind of interacting around this creative challenge? Because that's what we're going to debrief when we reconnect after you're done with this. It's not going to be about, let me hear your pattern. It's going to be about, talk a little bit about your process for us. Okay? All right, everyone. I think we're all back. So everybody, we're really close to time. We are going to have one more very quick chat before I release you back. First, again, I really want to just give big appreciation for your willingness to jump in and play a little bit in my world. I know that all of you as teachers are asked to do that quite a bit. Right? And even today, in just a single session, you're being asked to not just engage music and engage theater, but then also immediately think about how that connects to your own curriculum and, regardless of where your comfort level is at with it. So I really do applaud your just kind of like courage and your willingness to like give that a go for the benefit of your students and for creating a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a new normal in the classroom. I want to just very quickly loop us back one more time to the social emotional learning piece. And let me actually do a quick screen share on this. And I'm going to ask us, rather than sharing out one at a time, because again, time is short and it usually takes a little moment just to break the ice to where people even feel comfortable to unmute and throw their voices in. Maybe let's just do this in the chat. And tackle either one of these. How would your students strengthen their social emotional learning competencies by going through a creative process like your team just did when you were scoring? Right? Think a little bit about your own kind of process that you went through. What was it like navigating the team aspect of it? Did you have that kind of type A personality in the team who immediately took charge and was like, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we should do it, and that's the word we should pick? Did you have a sense of maybe the whole team leaning back a little bit more, and maybe you had to step in to assert yourself to actually be able to feel like, hey, we got to get something done. We want to move ahead. What was it like sort of doing that creative process in a small group? And what benefits do you think your students would go through doing something like that? And how, what's kind of your takeaway from the session you had earlier in the day with Debbie and Jay and working a little bit on what I asked all of you to work on? How can we use some of these arts ideas, arts activities, art skill building? How do they kind of tap into some of these bigger ideas of self-awareness or self-management, social awareness? So just, if you don't mind, drop a few ideas into the chat for us there. And I am now going to unshare this because I want to keep us on schedule. Thank you. Awesome collaboration. I love it. Expressing feelings, teamwork, shared experience. Love all of that. Beautiful. Sharing together. Awesome. All right, everyone. I'm going to turn it back to Sean and Jennifer, but I do want to end one more time with a quick thank you. One more time with just a big celebration of all of you. Again, I feel like Debbie and Jay took care of so much of all of this. But this year, did all the parents really feel what it is that you do? I hope that they hold on to that as September rolls back around, right? I hope that doesn't all fade away. Like what it was like going through that homeschooling and thinking like, wow, they've got 23 of them. They've got 35 of them. For all of us teaching artists, we're in your world enough to perpetually stand in awe of what it is that all of you do. And like I said, I know you're forever being asked to layer another lens over your work, but I really want to encourage you to grab on to, even if it's just a simple thing. If it was the one idea of the bird landing and flying away again, or being able to just embody a chair with one line of dialogue and let that spin into this incredible creativity, or maybe it was just the cups, right? Or just doing a little bit of call and response. if we had one morning together and you grab onto one idea from Debbie and Jay and one idea from me, and that somehow finds its way onto your feet in your classroom with your students in September, total success for me, right? Total success, like changing the world one grain of sand at a time, and never to make the whole thing feel so overwhelming, like, oh, unless I'm, scoring War and Peace by October, it was all a failure. No, really grab onto the part that feels doable. Remember that TEAL is there as a resource. Remember all of us teaching artists are there as a resource, and use that website to help you. And big, big, big thank you, everybody.